Welcome to Union Fitness. Welcome to the new and improved Performance Lab. Zoom around, see. Let the people see. Let the people see. It's not finished yet.
Close.
It will be. It will be. We're back. Jared forgot his shoes today, but that's okay.
Flamingos.
Today, we're going to go over, we're going to build off of last week and talk about the squat. Today, we're going to talk about squat mobility and strength that's required. We're going to start with and go over things such as the T-spine, shoulders, hips, knees and ankles, and the lumbar spine.
Squat is a super complex movement. A lot goes on for something as simple as sitting down and standing back up. So we're going to break it down and help you find what's going wrong with your squat. So let's start off. We're going to have Curtis get under the bar here. So the first thing that happens when he gets under the bar is he has to keep his thoracic spine extended, and his shoulders have to be both externally rotated and slightly extended, right? So go ahead and unwrap. So you notice as he performs just a normal squat, he can maintain this position, everything looks great, right? Really efficient. If this were to break down, or you do not have the appropriate mobility requirements or strength requirements to hold this up, it'll look real ugly. So go ahead. So the elbows flare back, the spine starts to round. Notice even his pelvis starts to dip. Go ahead. So that can cause a lot of issues with elbow pain, shoulder pain, pain in your upper back. And all that really is generally mobility issues. Now, if it's not a mobility issue, you probably have a strength issue. We're going to break down both. So let's go over thoracic spine mobility. I'm going to have you get on your hands and knees here. All right, what I'm going to have you do, put your right hand behind your back. Good. I'm going to stabilize the tips here. Go ahead and just rotate up the ceiling. Good. So we're just looking for about 50 degrees of rotation. Go ahead back down. He clearly has that, so that's good. If you do not have that, then thoracic rotation, go ahead. Back down. Is something you want to work on. The reason we want to work on rotation is because your thoracic spine, most of the vertebrae have about 14 joints in them. So just working extension can be pretty painful for a lot of people. Working rotation gets the same effect. So do yourself a favor, work in the thoracic rotation and stop trying to smash yourself over a foam wall. So now we're also going to break down the shoulders. So we'll have Kurt lay down on his back. External rotation is a big one for the squat. You need to get your shoulders back. If you can't do that, it will also tip your back forward. So we saw that his thoracic spine was good. So if your thoracic spine is good, external rotation is something to look at. All we want to do is take his arm here and just bring it back towards the floor. You need to get about 80, 90 degrees without your shoulder popping up too high. Kurt's good there. If you're not good there, working on shoulder external rotation is something you're going to benefit from. Under your stomach. So the next one is working shoulder extension. A lot of times as power lifters or even Olympic lifters, you get tight biceps tendons. You'll feel it real quick if you do. So what you're going to do is have your arm straight next to your side with your palm on the floor. Have someone come up, and what you want to feel for is the shoulder blade here, right? The shoulder blade is not allowed to tip forward. As soon as you feel that shoulder blade tip forward, the test is over. You just grab their wrist here, and you just lift up. Up, 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 up. So his shoulder tips forward about there. Kurt's actually a little limited. You want to be able to get about 50 degrees here. So some things to work on with shoulder extension would be like barrels or like inclined biceps curls with your arm right. So let's say we broke all that down. His mobility was pretty good, but his squat was still, let's say it was ugly, right? So we know it's not mobility, it would be strength. Thoracic extension, so his ability to stabilize his thoracic spine is probably limited. You want to do what? Safety bar squats?
Something that's really going to focus on the upper back, the thoracic area. Safety bar squats are great because they force you in, they try to force you into a flex position. So working the upper back extensors, keeping everything nice and strong.
Yeah, and then for the shoulders, your lats, right? So your lats are actually internal rotators of the shoulder, but they have to stabilize you in that external rotated position. They're also extensors of the shoulder. So to get into that optimal position, you have to have strong lats. My big thing is pull-ups. You said pull-downs?
Pull-downs,
either
pull-ups.
one.
Just make sure the full range of motion.
Yep. All right, so next we're going to go on the hips. So I'm going to Kurt get back under the bar. Go ahead and walk it out. So there's a lot that goes on at the hip joint. It's the second most mobile joint in the body. But for the squat, we're going to focus on two things for today, and that's going to be hip flexion and external rotation. So as he goes down, you'll notice he has to flex at the hip, right? He's bending at the hip, and his legs are also going out. That's external rotation. So if he doesn't have any of those, a lot of things you might see are he can't get dead, and his knees will kick down. Okay. So there's a couple things you can do to check this if this is you. I'm walking in. So first one, you just have the person lay down on their back. He's just going to grab his knee, drop the other leg straight, and pull that to his chest. Let's pretend Kurt cannot get this to his chest like he can, so he can only get a little bit. This is also going to kind of bring the knee into play. He's going to let go of his shin and grab the back of his thigh and pull again. So if he can now get there, that means knee flexion is limited. If he couldn't get there either way, hip flexion is limited. Usually tight glutes is the reason. The other one is hip external rotation. So all we want to do for this, just get a partner, have them grab here, you go to about 90 degrees of hip flexion, and just turn them out. You're looking for about 50 degrees here. Kurt's good. You check both legs, make sure they're even.
Probably not.
Most likely not. Not bad. So he's good. 90-90 drills are perfect to work on for that.
So with those 90-90 drills, would you do it to where you're actually transitioning, or would you kind of reach?
You can do both. So
okay.
Generally, to start, you do the reach, and then I do transitions once you have the ability to do that, because that'll incorporate a little strengthening. And again, for the hips, just start working on your glutes. So what are some of your favorite exercises for the glutes?
One of my big ones is a weighted or even body weight 45-degree back extension with a neutral spine, not a flex spine. Really focusing on driving the hips into the pad, flexing the glutes, flexing the hamstrings at the top. Even throw in a 1 to 2 second hold. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, and then everybody knows the little hip circle by Slingshot. Just start doing some lateral hip walks. Make sure you have those knees bent. Focus on picking up and pushing out as you step. So next, we already kind of covered knee flexion a little bit with that test. That's really all you need to do for that, but ankle dorsiflexion is another one. A lot of you might have heard of the wall test. It's real easy. Fist and thumb, we'll have Kurt do it. Ideally, you do this with shoes off. So fist and thumb, and then he's going to keep his pelvis square, so he's not going to turn. His heel stays down, and he tries to drive his knee towards the wall there. A little bit limited, but nothing where I'd be like super concerned. It's not Olympic lifting.
Typically, we want to watch and make sure that heel's not coming off right. I think that's the biggest part of the test is everybody wants to keep going once that heel comes up, but that's
yeah. And also, people cheat by rotating their hips all the time, so keep those hips square. Yep. And then you always want to check the other side, see if there are any differences, because you'll start to notice, even weight shifting as you squat, if there's a difference in ankle mobility. As far as strength for the knees and ankles go, your quad is the main mover of the squat. I know a lot of people preach hips. Your quad is the main mover. It's what drives you out of the hole. So for me, training the quads, I like the sissy squat. Just throw some straps behind the knees, sit back into them and squat.
I'm big on TKEs. I just think they're a low impact exercise, and they really reinforce what you should feel when you contract the quad muscles.
And then for the ankles, training your calves, both your soleus and your gastroc through a full range of motion is super important. So doing them from a deficit even. So that's, the soleus would be training from a seated position and going up and down, and then the gastroc would be from a standing position. So just have a plate in front of you, drop your heels beneath it, and raise up. Make sure you do them weighted though.
It's something that's really, really overlooked. I think there was a time period where people didn't think that you really needed that calf strength and stability for a squat, right? Guys that squatted in suits and gear that were real wide, really vertical shin, they didn't need it as much. But the way that every individual typically squats without any type of supportive system, the calf muscles are hugely required and beneficial to stabilize and strengthen the movement.
Keep in mind your gastroc crosses the knee, like it helps you in that movement. It's just not there to stabilize your ankle, like it helps the knee too. So the last one we're going to go over is the lumbar spine. So we're going to have Kurt get back under the bar. And we're actually going to start him in a bad position when he gets there. You'll notice this a lot with people. So he's going to unrack, step it back, and as soon as he goes to go, we're going to notice that he has a dip in his low back here, right? So he's starting in a flexed position. He's already putting a ton of stress through his lumbar spine. Not great. Another one you see people do is almost like they're about to twerk. So they see that butt come up there, perfect. Kurt's been working on weekends. And he goes squat down, you notice immediately his pelvis dips under him, doing the proverbial butt wink. So go ahead and walk back in. So that's something we definitely want to avoid. A lot of injuries can happen if those movements become too excessive. A little bit is okay. It's not going to kill you, right, to have a little bit, but you want to avoid it as much as possible. So what you want to work on for that is what we call lumbo-pelvic coordination. So we're going to start Kurt on his hands and knees, and we're going to have him twerk actually. So without moving his upper back, we're just going to have him dip his pelvis down and back up. Good. Good. A couple more times. So notice it's slow and controlled, right? So if you can do that, that's pretty good. If you start to notice you have like a ratcheting of movement, that means your coordination is not great. Now we're going to see if he can progress it. He's going to get on his knees, standing up tall, and he's going to try to do it from here. Good, and then tuck it back under. You notice a little bit of shaking when he does this one. So this one's a little bit harder. This is how you progress this one. All that's going to do is kind of give your body more awareness when you're under the bars to hit that neutral position. So we're not starting down here, we're not starting here, we're starting in neutral. Think like abs and cheeks kind of flexed. If you're unable to successfully hold this position, you can get it, but once you get to a certain weight, you can't hold the position. A lot of times that's core stability. I'm a big fan of Palloff press, of side planks, front planks, and bird dogs. Yeah.
Without a doubt, those are my top.
And then another thing I think is missed in training the squat is the lumbar erectors. I mean, when you're down there, the erectors are firing like crazy to support you. So train your erectors. We train the hips so much. Why don't we train the erectors? They support your spine. I mean, there's a bazillion ways to train your erectors. Just extend your lumbar spine.
Yeah, pretty much.
But so that's all for the strength and mobility requirements. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, keep in mind, we just briefly touched on these, right? Like, there's tens of exercises for each area that we could go over. We just wanted to give you the basic test and basic strength requirements for each of these. Tune in next week as we dig into part 3 of our squat work. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comments, send them to us at Union Fitness, and we'll hope to see you guys soon. Take care.